The Cowboys once again beat the Giants on Thursday Night Football in prime time, and we predict some of the top games going on this weekend. All that and more here at the Gridiron. What's going on, guys? Justin here. Welcome back to another episode of the Gridiron, brought to you by Housecall Sports. I'm running this episode solo, and before we get to all the topics on this episode, we got to thank our sponsors over at Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the most trustworthy and easy to navigate ticketing website. They have reliable and rewarding tickets, plus a 100% buyer guaranteed, which means your transactions will always be safe and secure. You get full customer service care and be compensated for any canceled events. And it's got the only ticket rewards program around. Look, if you're going to be like me and sit through your bad team getting absolutely beaten to shreds at Thursday Night Football or any other NFL event, you might as well get your tickets at the best possible price point. Or if NFL is not your thing, we got basketball coming up, NHL hockey coming up. We're this much closer to the MLB playoffs. So do yourself a favor. Go check out the link in our description below. Go get your tickets through Vivid Seats and go sit vividly. Now, we had Thursday Night Football. Yours truly went to the game as a diehard Giants fan. I got my Malik Neighbors jersey here. I was there. And when I tell you, for only my second Giants game, this was the most electric feeling that we could have had going into it. We had just come off with a win against the Cleveland Browns. The Dallas Cowboys lost in spectacular fashion against the Baltimore Ravens. It was a short week, and if you hadn't watched the game, when I tell you, Dallas had every opportunity to lose this game possible. And I mean everything. Their top three defensive players went out in the game. Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Trayvon Diggs all went out at different points in the game. The penalties were going crazy. I think they had almost 90 yards worth of penalties in this game. And yet, somehow, they still managed to pull out a win by a score of 20-15. And you know why they were able to pull out that win, even though they shouldn't have? Two reasons. One, they were able to stop the run. Dallas is the 32nd ranked run defense in the NFL, which means they are dead last. And yet they still managed to hold the Giants to 1.1 yards per rush. That's insanity to even hear that. 4 to 5 yards is what you typically want to go to. 3 yards is if you're having a bad game. But 1.1 yards is just atrocious. And not only were they able to do that, but the Giants kept shooting themselves in the foot because they couldn't capitalize. They couldn't score touchdowns. They became the New York field goal Giants. And that's all they're ever going to be as long as this offense can't get into the end zone. If you've seen the game, they were marching it down the Cowboys' throats. Pause. Nothing the Cowboys could do could stop almost pretty much every drive that went on for the Giants. The Giants only punted one time the entire game. But yet, from inside the 20-yard line, that's when the Giants couldn't do anything. They couldn't get touchdowns. They couldn't move the ball once they got close to the red zone. And unfortunately, that's what wins games, is the difference between the people that can put the ball in the end zone, which the Cowboys did twice, versus the team that can't do it and has to settle for field goals, which is what the Giants did. And now this pretty much sets the landscape of how the NFC East is going. Because you have the Eagles at the top of the division right now, with the Washington Commanders essentially right behind them. The Cowboys, now with the 2-2 record, are right there in third place. And me and my lowly Giants are at 1-3. And not only are we 1-3, but we are 1-3 with probably the most difficult part of our schedule coming up. Because we have the Seahawks, who's undefeated. We have games against the Bengals coming up. We have another game against Washington, and we have Philadelphia. So I don't know what to make of this Giants team right now, because the defense A defense that managed to hold Dak Prescott and the Cowboys to just over 200 yards of passing. A team that was able to essentially shut them out in the second half because Dallas was only able to score 6 points in the entire second half. Kudos to Shane Bowen and his adjustments at halftime. But they just get disappointed by this lackluster offense. And yes, everybody can make all the excuses that they want. Well, Wan'Dale dropped some passes. Malik Neighbors dropped some passes. Darius Slayton dropped some passes. But you know what else happened in that game? Daniel Jones could not throw the ball deep. And I watched it live. The difference between watching it from a broadcast view and watching it, the actual game live, is you see just how bad these deep ball passes are. Like the double move that Malik Neighbors had where he was wide open, there was nothing but green grass. Daniel Jones could have laid it out there in stride and that would have been a touchdown. Instead, he airmailed it to the point that Neighbors had to stop and wait for the ball and had to settle for like a 39-yard gain, which is still great, but not as good as what it could have been. Then you got the whole thing with Darius Slayton on a free play. Darius Slayton should have been in there for a touchdown. He should have still been running away with the ball too, as we speak. But Daniel Jones, even though it was a free play, still underthrew it. And it wound up being an interception, which thank God got called back because of the penalty. So you had those two plays. The play that he had to Tyrone Tracy, where he got him on a wheel route, it was actually a really good play. But the problem was two things. One, there was a penalty for an illegal formation because both Tracy and the tight end both moved. And Tracy couldn't get both feet down. Tyrone Tracy, I know you're a running back now, but you used to be a wide receiver, and this is the NFL. You need to have both feet in bounds in order for the catch to count. So those are all the things that went wrong for the Giants. Now let's talk about these Cowboys. And I'm not going to, rant about how bad the Cowboys is because at this point they beat us. I have no right to do that. But I will tell you is if you think the Cowboys are going to make any noise, whether it's reaching the playoffs or a deep run in the playoffs, with the way that they played yesterday, you're going to be sadly mistaken. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb is probably the only thing saving the Dallas Cowboys right now. Because Dak Prescott, no matter how much pressure you put on him, no matter how much you try to play the pass, he will get his yards and he will put the ball in the end zone. CeeDee Lamb, no matter how frustrated he can be, no matter how many people you try to put on him, double team, triple team, he will get his yards. And if given the opportunity like he did last night, he will put the ball in the end zone. But where is the rest of the team? Where is that Dallas Cowboys pass rush that everybody used to fear? Micah Parsons, before the injury, because now I'm hearing he has a high ankle sprain, where were you at? Other than one play that NFL Instagram account liked to push out where he stuffed the run, you were nowhere. You really got locked down by Andrew Thomas. And I'm surprised they even put you on Thomas's side for most of the game. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's getting up there in age. Of course, he is going to slow down, but he is expected to still be a pass rusher with this team. And Trayvon Diggs, man, Trayvon Diggs is hit and miss. Yes, he could come down with interceptions. Yes, he is aggressive playing the ball, but he will also give up a ton of yards in the meantime as well. And he is the only cornerback that the Dallas Cowboys have right now. And I've seen the other corners get absolutely cooked. Again, go back to that Neighbors double move. The corner was literally like going around in circles. I don't know what to expect of Dallas, but the Dallas Cowboys team that I remember that has always beaten my Giants, even though they beat them again yesterday, has been a team that can run the ball effectively, and they couldn't do that. They probably got barely over 3 yards a carry, which is actually a lot better than what I thought seeing it from the stands. But they used to be a team that would dominate you on the run with their offensive line. They were a team that would attack you on the defense. And they weren't that team. Right now, they really miss their defensive coordinator, their former defensive coordinator, who's out there in Washington being the head coach and is having a good old time after the performance they had on Monday Night Football. It's going to be a hard thing seeing these two teams. And if you have to actually take a guess at it when it comes to the NFC East, it's looking like it's going to be the Eagles' division to lose. And the Eagles got their own things that they have to clean up, honestly, before they could even say, oh, the division is ours. No, you have some other things going on, too. Your defensive backfield is young, so they're inexperienced and are susceptible to double moves. Your defense finally decided to show up as a whole, and your quarterback, iffy at times. He's not the superstar that can carry your whole team the way a Josh Allen can or a Patrick Mahomes can. He's not that person. But he has enough pieces around him to make him better. So it is going to be interesting to see how this division ends up shaking up. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if the winner of the division only has 10 wins, honestly. Because the way that all four teams have been playing so far is not up to par of what is needed to win the NFC. And you'll see, because we got some NFC games to talk about right now, and we may as well start with a clash in the NFC North between the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers. And these are two teams that have shocked us for completely different reasons, but both involving the quarterback position. The Minnesota Vikings came in with a plan. Sam Darnold was going to play a couple of games, and then J.J. McCarthy would be the eventual starter, maybe even the starter next year. And that did not work out. J.J. McCarthy got injured. He is out for the season. And Sam Darnold has been playing like the first-round pick that he was. And I thought it was just going to be a fluke thing because it was against the Giants. Nope. He went and did that against the 49ers. He did it against the Giants. He did it against the Texans. He put up numbers. Matter of fact, let's go see these stat lines real quick. Darnold has thrown for 657 yards, 8 touchdowns already. It's only been 3 games and 2 interceptions. And he has a quarterback rating of 117.3 right now. He's balling right now. And it's crazy. But can he continue this against the Minnesota Viking? Against the Green Bay Packers, I should say. Because the Green Bay Packers have not been any kind of slouches when it comes to the defending the pass. Xavier McKinney, the former safety of my New York Giants, already has 3 interceptions in 3 games. And that's because the Packers are letting him do what he has been known best to do since coming out of Alabama. He is a deep safety. He is I'm going to stand back, I'm going to read the quarterback's eyes, and I'm going to attack. And he does do it, and he does play the ball very well. So it is going to be very interesting to see how Sam Darnold and that Minnesota Vikings offense can compete with the Packers pass defense. Just like it's also interesting to see who's going to be the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. See, the Packers, we don't know who's going to start. Malik Willis has been playing, and he has been playing well already in his, 3 games he's played so far, including, the latter part, like that one series in game 1. He has 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's pretty good. For someone who's supposed to be a backup quarterback, that's not bad. Are we going to get Jordan Love? Are we going to get Malik Willis? We don't know. We'll find out closer to game time. But can he compete against that Minnesota front 7? A front 7 that is known to attack. A front 7 head by Brian Flores as the DC, who I thought was just going to run blitzes every single game, but has shown that he can run the blitz and he can also drop his players back and defend the pass. So as a young backup quarterback, can you adjust to this? Or is this going to be feast or famine for the Vikings? And if you ask me, I think the Vikings take this game. I think even though the Packers have done well despite who is under center at the quarterback position, I think that the odds are so much favoring the Minnesota Vikings over the Packers that I think it's going to happen like that. And I think it's going to be a good game. I'm predicting 24-21 Minnesota. Let's keep it close. Let's keep the division interesting. Let's keep it to where it's 3 teams competing for the lead in the NFC North, because I don't have much faith in the Chicago Bears. But that's a topic that we could save for another day. As for another game that we need to talk about, because we're going to keep this in the NFC. And speaking of NFC North teams, we have the Lions that are hosting the undefeated Seattle Seahawks. And I never thought that I would say that the Seahawks were undefeated, considering the fact that they have a brand new regime in terms of their coaching. But they've been playing like they're all Pro Bowlers, which they are. And they look like they want to go back to that standard. I mean, look at this. Geno Smith, speaking of which, another former Jets quarterback, New York Jets. I don't know what you did to fumble both of these quarterbacks, but Geno Smith and Sam Darnold have been playing very well without you. Geno Smith, 787 yards. However, he's got 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. But when you go for 103 attempts in 3 games, it tends to happen that you do get a couple of interceptions. It also happens to be that way because they push the ball down the field. I mean, DK Metcalf is averaging 15.5 yards per catch. Jackson Smith-Jigba, 10.3 yards. Tyler Lockett, 10.6 yards. This is a team that will push the ball down the field. And if you are caught lacking in the middle, intermediate to deep part of the field, then they will throw it there. And DK Metcalf has shown that he will run that post route or that deep in, catch the ball, and if you're not careful, he's going to run right past you or he's going to run right over you. So the name of the game, honestly, is to stop this passing offense of the Seahawks. Because if you look at it, their running backs aren't really that good. I mean, Charbonnet is averaging 3.5 yards a rush. Kenneth Walker is 5.2, but he only carried the ball, 20 times so far for 103 yards? Okay, cool. They do got 5 touchdowns on the ground, which is great. But I really think if you really want to stop this Seattle team, you need to stop the pass game. And honestly, if I was the Lions, that is exactly what I am focusing on. Meanwhile, on the opposite end, when it comes to Seattle's defense, I need them to try to stop the Lions' rush game. Because you could say anything you want about Jared Goff. You can say what you want about Amon-Ra St. Brown. The team that is the Detroit Lions live and die by the run game first. If you can beat them and stop the run, you have a better chance of neutralizing the pass. I mean, let's see where they're at right now. Jared Goff is at 723 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions so far. Not the best start compared to some of the other top quarterbacks in the league. But this is where you really need to pay attention. Montgomery is rushing for 4.5 yards per attempt and has 3 touchdowns already. Gibbs, 5.2 yards a carry, 1 touchdown already. Jamison Williams, who's also a threat on jet sweeps and motions, 7 yards a run. Khalif Raymond, who's only ran the ball once already, has 12 yards, but that's because he only ran it once. The name of the game with the Detroit Lions on offense, they want to run first. They want to establish dominance in the trenches, and then that is what leads to their pass game. So, if you want to beat Detroit, then you will do just that. Do I think it is going to happen? No. I think being that this is prime time in Detroit, I think the crowd noise is going to be loud. I think it's going to be electric over there. I think Dan Campbell is going to have a plan to put pressure on Geno Smith and make him make mistakes on defense. And at the same time, I think that the Lions offense is going to do just enough on offense to outscore this 3-0 Seattle Seahawks team, who is a legit contender in the NFC West, but I don't see them winning this game. Give me Detroit, and honestly, give me it by a score of 28-20, honestly, because I think you're going to let them score twice, and then everything else is going to be field goals. Before we talk about our last team, if you are enjoying this content from us at the Gridiron, at Housecall Sports, do us a favor and like this video, and also follow us on all of our social media. We are everywhere, from YouTube to TikTok to Instagram. We got clips, predictions, recaps of all the games, and we do all sports, whether you are a fan of baseball, football, soccer, Formula One, wrestling, we got it all. With that being said, we are going to go to our final game that we're going to be reviewing, and that is the Buffalo Bills taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And if you saw both of these teams in their last games, their offenses really woke up. Like the Baltimore Ravens, if the game against the Dallas Cowboys ended after the first half, it would go in history for this season as the biggest blowout. Because I think they put up, 25 points on them in one half? And then here's the Buffalo Bills, who absolutely destroyed the Jacksonville Jaguars. 47-10. Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns, I think, in one half of football. This is a game of whether you are going to have probably elite passing on one end versus elite running on the other end. And this is really going to take a toll on both defenses, just because these offenses are so explosive. To the point that if you have either of these defenses on your fantasy league, I would suggest you benching them for this week, because I predict this to be a really high-scoring game on both sides. I think the key to this victory is really depending on who you want to win. The Baltimore Ravens, it's simple. On offense, you need to run it on them, because if you can establish the run with both Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, you do two things. You control time of possession, which is very important in the NFL, and you keep Josh Allen off the field. Because if you could keep Josh Allen and that Buffalo Bills defense on the sideline, offense on the sideline, then you neutralize their chances of putting up points the way they did last week. And for the Buffalo Bills, it's simple. You want to dominate them all around on offense. You want to establish not only your pass game, but also your run game. Because what we've seen with the Buffalo Bills is that when they can mix it up and they can adjust to whatever the defense is throwing at them, they're scary as an offense. Their first couple of games, Josh Allen did not have to be Superman. Their first 2 games, he only had to run the ball, and Cook was able to eat off of that. And then all of a sudden they go to Jacksonville and they say, you know what? We're going to just throw it around. We're going to launch it. We're going to give Shakir a touchdown. We're going to give Coleman a touchdown. We're going to give Cook a touchdown. We're going to give some random fan come on in, put on a helmet. We're going to give you a touchdown also. And that's just because we want to bench our guys in the second half, and then we want to go out there eating buffalo wings. This is going to be a very high-scoring game. And it's going to come down to who is going to make the mistake. And I think in this game, even though it is in Baltimore, I think the Ravens are going to be the team to make that mistake. They are 1-2. They are 0-1 at home. And the problem and the thing that has led them to being 1-2 and what could have made them 0-3 is the fact that they keep bailing out in the second half. And what I mean by that is they keep failing and letting teams either come back in the second half, they blow leads in the second half, or they fail to come back in the second half. They are a first half team, and they are probably the first half team in the NFL. They establish their dominance quickly, but then they soon flutter once the third and fourth quarter happen. And I think if you are the Buffalo Bills and you can't come out to a hot start in the first half, just know you could come back in the second half against them. And Baltimore, I don't know what is going on with your defense, but if you can't adjust at halftime, you're not going to make it far in the playoffs. You are going to be a playoff team because any team that has Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry as your faces of the offense are going to be successful in the regular season. But if you can't come out of the locker room after halftime and have adjustments for both offense to keep scoring and for defense to stop teams from scoring, then I don't know what to say. You let the Dallas Cowboys come back last week. And yes, they lost to you, but they were that close to beating you and making you 0-3. And then we, as Giants fans over here, they barely got to 20. And the reason they got that is because of 2 touchdowns in the first half. After that, they scored 6 points the rest of the game. So you know what? Give me Buffalo. And I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. So give me Buffalo 42-35. Because I feel like these two defenses cannot stop the offense that is coming their way. And ladies and gentlemen, this is all I have for you this week here at the Gridiron. Like I said, if you enjoyed these prediction videos, do me a favor, like the video, follow us on all of our social media, and then catch us because we do recaps of these. We got you with all the latest news. And guys, we will see you next time.